There we go. Let's get Craig on here. See, there he is. Hey, Craig.
How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you. I can hear you okay. There's a little bit of a glitch.
A little bit of a glitch. All right, let me jump out and come right back.
All right, let's try that. All right, we'll do that. All right, and in the meantime, by the way, I had Sharika correct me. He had his first business at 6. AJ did. So guys, if your kids are telling you that they want to run a business and they're real young, don't let it stop them. Let them keep on keeping on, because trust me, that will blossom into something awesome. So we're going to be bringing on Craig Fisher. So Craig's amazing. He's done a lot of fantastic events surrounding recruiting and HR. He's just joined on as an executive with a startup that's very, very exciting. I will let him tell you all about that when he gets back on. And he has a lot of really amazing things going on with him. I think, by the way, oh, here he comes again. Let's go ahead and get him back on. Let's see.
I'm back.
You're back, and now we can hear you. It works.
Okay.
All right. So I was just telling our audience that you've had an exciting career change very recently. You've jumped on with an awesome new startup. Can you tell us, first of all, a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a software company called knack.io asked me to help kind of direct their operations and amplify their brand and make introductions and help drive revenue for their organization. And, you know, I do other things, but this looked like a good opportunity to kind of shake things up in the industry for the way engineers are able to find accurate jobs on job sites and career sites and things like that. They get deluged with jobs that aren't the right thing.
Right.
This is a matching platform that does a really good job of getting accurate jobs into the hands of engineers, and then accurate engineers into the hands of hiring managers.
Which is awesome. I love it. I checked it out whenever you posted your exciting announcement. And I think it's great. It looks like a really cool platform.
Yeah, it is. And it's beautiful. So the user experience is wonderful.
Yes, I know. I'm as you know, I'm developing a technology right now too. I'm a little jealous of your UI. So
they've done a wonderful job of it. So
they really, really have. So I want to talk to you. So we're talking about surviving COVID, and we were just talking about some of the things to do and not do during the interview process. But one of the things I really specifically wanted to talk to you about is right now with COVID, there's this huge idea that, oh, I just can't get a job because of COVID. Oh, I can't, there's just too many people. There's just this or that. What's your response to that?
Yeah, so that's a stigma. Stigmas are good only for people that care about them.
I like that.
So, right, I mean, you can get a job. And a job isn't necessarily what you need all the time. So I tell everybody, as soon as they get into transition mode, if they haven't already done so, start your own LLC, right? And then start doing some work in the industry that you want to work in, right? Do some research about the companies you'd like to work for or do projects for, and publish that data. Right. And like, for instance, here's some of the things that I do. So I do employer brand strategy for companies. And so part of that is doing an audit on their employer brand, their reputation management, all that stuff. And then I compare it against, 5 competitors. And that's the basis. That's where we start. Here's your perception in the market now, your share of voice in each of the regions where you're trying to recruit and attract people. Do something like that. Like study the company. I love that. Yeah, study the company that you'd like to work for and 5 of their competitors and say, here's how they could do their HR processes better or their onboarding for job candidates better based on survey results that I gathered, or whatever it is. And if you're in accounting, do a survey around payroll and
the
accounting
financials
process with exactly. And then publish that data on LinkedIn under your new job, which is your new LLC, right? And your experience on LinkedIn, and then tag all the people that work for those companies.
Yes, I love that. Yes, I love
right?
that. That's so creative.
The
I
people that
like
you
that.
want to do the work for, show them what value you could bring. And
Yes.
before you know it, your friends will be reaching out and saying, hey, could you do something like this for us? And you've got
Mm-hmm.
project number one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then that's going to snowball and it's going to be fun. And you're going to have this great lifestyle business happening. And before you know it, somebody will offer you a job because it'll be cheaper to hire you full time than pay you to consult.
100%. And I've actually seen this work for more than just Craig, by the way, guys. Dan Irvin, we've had him on the show, and he's spectacular. He is just spectacular. And he did essentially the same thing. And now he has a whole job with public speaking that he started during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now a paid public speaker. and management consultants as well, leadership consultants. And that's amazing. So this is one very creative way to do that. And people think, oh, I don't want to consult. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, number one, what you're doing isn't working if you've been unemployed for 6 months or more. And you weren't on yet when I shared the stat, but over 3.9 million people have been unemployed for over 6 months in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something you're doing isn't working. Right. So try this new way to do it. And it doesn't mean you have to be a consultant forever, but it brings in money in the meantime. And it's a creative way to not get lost in the shuffle, which was the number one response we got that people are afraid of right now in COVID, is getting lost.
And here's the other thing, Catherine. Once you've started your company, never close it, right? Your end date is always to present on your LinkedIn profile. And so you never have that gap in your resume. Right. You've always got that to pivot back to. So for several years, I was a leader at one of the largest staffing companies in the world, at Allegis. And in May of this year, they laid off 300 people in my division, including most of my team. And I accepted a package and I was very grateful for it. And thank you very much. And I still had my business going on over here that I've always done. I host the biggest recruiting conference in Texas in the Southwest. And then I consult for all the employers that go to the conference. And I'm an advisor to a lot of the vendors and HR tech companies that sponsor the conference. And so that's my little merry-go-round, right? I keep that going all the time. And in the background, it's my nights and weekends job, if you will. So, and I do trainings and workshops, all this stuff. So I just pivoted that back to the front. And it's way more profitable than being employed somewhere. I'm easily able to pay for benefits and things like that. That's not a big deal. And so, to those who say, I don't want to consult, there's a stigma. If that's in your mind only in your mind. Okay. Don't have that break in your experience.
And we talked about earlier with Michaela, don't only get outside of your comfort zone, stay outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
That's how you grow. That's how you reach greatness in your career. And the other you had some other kind of genius ideas before on the show. And about, kind of some creative ways to just kind of put yourself out there. And one of them that I really, really liked was you talked about, okay, so this company can't afford to bring me on full time right now. And by the way, in COVID, this is a perfect idea. Okay. So he said, okay, so he picked three or four companies. I don't remember the exact number, and went to each one of them and said, okay, you pay a third, you pay a third, you pay a third, and you all get a third of my time and you all get me, but you don't have to pay that full price to have me.
That's right.
Genius.
Yeah, absolutely. So the companies that sponsor my conferences, I went to them and I said, look, I'm gonna have some free time in my schedule, and I'm gonna dole it out like this. And to be honest, when you say consulting, I don't want to do that. Anybody that's got that in their head, doing work with a company is doing work with a company. You're a consultant, even if you're inside the organization, and if you're not, you should be. Right? You should be one of the best consultants inside the organization. So it's a great skill to have no matter what. But the other thing I did was, and I've done this with most of my employers, is I said to Allegis when they hired me on, I said, you can't afford me for this role. So I do this other stuff, and I need it in writing that you're cool with me doing this other stuff. So they gave me 20 paid days a year to do my other stuff. And I just took a little less salary, and it worked out great. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah. So get creative, people.
That's right.
Get creative, and by the way, for those of you out there who think that you need 6 weeks or more PTO, okay, one of the easiest ways to get that is to be a consultant, because then nobody can say anything to you about when you take time off. Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, that's one of the joys of being 1099. Nobody can give you office hours.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell you when you can and cannot take time off. Nobody can tell you when to work.
Yeah.
It's one of the best parts about it. So
PTO is overrated anyway. If you're good at your job, if you're effective, nobody's going to care if you take time off.
Right. That is so very true. That is so very, very true. I have learned that over the years. And I've been that way with my team. I've had them, I'm out of PTO. So what? Take your couple of days. Who cares? You know,
good managers will say, don't even report that. You're fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who cares? Just go. One of the other things I really wanted to ask you, so we've talked about some creative ways to stand out, and those were both wonderful suggestions that I fully advocate, by the way.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, once you're in the interview process, you've still got to stand out, right? And Michaela and I talked about, they need to like you. People, if they don't like you, they're not going to hire you. That's so big. Right. We've talked about, some of the follow-up and things like that. But when you're sitting face to face, or even, let's start with the phone call, right? The first initial phone call between you and the other company. What are some of the things that you recommend to make people stand out so that they're not just lost in the shuffle?
Yeah. So when you meet someone, you can kind of give them a name, rank, and serial number and be very buttoned down about it. So, if we're at a networking event or if we're online networking and I say to you, Catherine, hi, I'm Craig Fisher. I'm the CEO of TalentNet Media, I'm CEO of NAC, and, I'd like to know a little bit about you. Nice to meet you. And I move on. That's great. Fine. Whatever. But if I say, hey, Catherine, great to meet you. I just barely got to this event online or in person, whatever, because of the traffic on 635 or because I had to drive my kid to football practice or whatever it is. I've got 3 boys. We live in Grapevine, Texas by Grapevine Lake. And I've got a couple of dogs. If you want to find me on Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Fish Dogs. I'd love to connect with you. And by the way, this is my job and this is what I do. And so tell me about you. Now, I'm already a way more interesting and vulnerable person than I was, the first time I introduced myself with name, rank, and serial number, because if you open up yourself, the fastest way to develop trust is to be vulnerable yourself. So say something slightly embarrassing or slightly personal about yourself so people remember you.
And I want to key on that word slightly because Michaela and I were talking about there is such a thing as oversharing. Okay, guys. Yes. Yeah. We do not want to overshare. And I've had, and it can be even as minor as, going into some details about your kid and just going on and on and on about your kid. We're not here to talk about your kid. Like it's cute, tell me, something little about them, but don't focus on that.
We don't need to hear all your problems. And just like you shouldn't put all your problems on social media, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's the same thing. You don't want to tell everyone all your problems in person either.
Right. Exactly. And it's not attractive to a potential boss. Trust me, it's not. So one of the other things that I wanted to bring up with you is, on the hiring side, because this is something that I see so much. One of the most hilarious things that somebody can say to me in an interview is, I just want to work at a place where there's no drama. I am all about avoiding drama. And I see you laughing. So I want to see if your response to that statement or your mental response to that statement is the same as mine, because what that tells me is, you're all about the drama. Correct. You are going to bring that drama. Yeah.
I can tell you right here, I don't like drama, but I can't avoid drama because work is called work for a reason. It's if it was easy and fun, it would be called play.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And there's going to be tough times and all that. But when you say something like that to a potential employer, what you are saying is that is my focus. And I can't, I'm
going to be watching for drama everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. And that's not an attractive. Right. No. So when you're saying things, folks, think about how it's perceived. How is this going to be? Test this out on some people. Say, hey, if I said this to you, how would that sound to you?
Yeah. So I mean, a better thing to say would be, I meet challenges head on, and I like to jump through walls and over walls. I don't have to go around them.
Yes, I like that. Through walls and over walls, because
Yeah.
that's exactly it. You want somebody that will rise to a challenge, that no matter what. I was talking about Sharika, who's watching right now, and when I first met her, the reason I brought her onto my team is she'd been placed with the most god awful clients, and he was rude and nasty, and he would just personally insult her, and she just let it bloop, and just kept on doing her job and kicking butt.
Yeah.
And I said, I need this girl on my staff.
And
I have to have her.
Sometimes you have to do that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, in your own house, you have to do that sometimes. Just,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep focus on the big picture.
Just focus. And I'm, by the way, I'm not advocating for staying with the boss that treats you that way. I just want to throw that out there. I am not advocating for letting anybody treat you that way. Right. So the other part, as we're recovering from COVID, because, there's, so we got to get a job. So it is a stigma. Don't worry, guys. There are jobs out there. The job market is increasing. You can get a job. We've kind of talked about some creative ways to get through that, and to stand out and all of that. But I want to know too, because I have a lot of people telling me I can't get past anything because people see my age or they see this or that, and I can't get over that hump. Mm-hmm. So do you think that resumes are something that, obviously we all need them, right? I'm not saying we don't need them at all, mm-hmm. but do you think that people should put more emphasis in other areas, or should their emphasis be on their resume?
Well, okay. So first of all, there's a lot of people who believe that the traditional resume is going away. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I kind of agree with that.
I do too.
The resume I presented to Allegis when they reached out to me was really more of an infographic than it was a resume, and they loved it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, I think if you prepare a statement, just like if you were going to submit yourself for a proposal to any company to do some project work, mm-hmm. you wouldn't give them a resume. You'd give them highlights of your experience. Mm-hmm. Here's what I've done that pertains to what you're doing. That's very important and valuable. Here's how I overcame some challenges, right? Mm-hmm. That's also very important and valuable. Not that resumes are currently not in play. You do have to submit one at some point. But to get the interview and mm-hmm. To get in front of a hiring manager, I think submitting your resume to a job description online is not very effective. I know it's not very effective because I work with all the companies that do the resume transcription in their applicant tracking system. And, mm-hmm. I work with all the recruiters who don't look at that applicant tracking system at the candidates who've come in, right? Yep. They just build up in your inbox.
Yeah.
And so what if you had a way to take all those resumes and actually put them somewhere that could search and sort them and make them valuable to you based on a job description that you put in there? Well, that would be brilliant, but that doesn't really happen all the time right now. And so you need to network your way into a situation, right? Mm-hmm. Be visible online to the people mm-hmm. who might want to hire you on a regular basis and show your thought leadership.
Yes.
There's so it's.
But
funny.
Don't call yourself a thought leader on LinkedIn, because nobody knows what that is.
No. Don't. And it's funny. I'm almost sometimes insulted when people call me, "Oh, you're an influencer on LinkedIn." Okay, great. Oh. Well, okay. No, I do that so that I can generate business. I do actual work and lots of it, and really mm-hmm. good work. I have great references from my customers for the work that I do, the very strategic, hard work that mm-hmm. a lot of people can't do. Now, what I'm mm-hmm. good at, though, is consistently talking about that work, showing the work, writing case studies about the work, and presenting it online, and then inviting my customers to be online with me to talk about the work. So I'm not just a LinkedIn influencer. I'm really good at my job, and then I talk about it. And that's driving business. Right.
And I want to really hit on what you're saying here, because guys, there's a big difference between fluff, okay, which is what we're talking about, saying I'm an influencer and saying all these, here's all these quotes and all these people like my quotes. Nobody cares. Okay. That's not what we're talking about here. Substance and really showcasing what you can do professionally. That's what you want to be doing on your resume. Right. And then also on your LinkedIn and in your networking. And if you're not on LinkedIn and really blowing it up, and if you're not out there networking, you are doing yourself a disservice. Okay. And I understand COVID, blah, blah, blah. There's tons of online networking where you can at least get yourself kind of out there. And then as soon as in-person is back in your area, start going. Okay. That's how you really grow yourself. And if you're uncomfortable in the networking situation, take yourself a little rah-rah person that'll do your introductions for you and let you and kind of showcase you.
Mhm.
But you have to put real substance. Craig's absolutely right. Talk about the real things going on and what you're doing and how you're doing it and that type of thing. That's actually a skill I'm still trying to hone, but I know it needs to be done. I know, in terms of, I'm still trying to learn how to hone it in terms of online, on LinkedIn and all that. But it is important. You can't just be fluffy about it. You can't just, oh, I'm a thought leader and I'm so smart. What does that mean? What do you do?
Sound bites are only good for people who are desperate for, some kind of help, right? I don't even do that hardly anymore. If you see clips of me on LinkedIn, I'm pulling stuff that might be really valuable to either job seekers or customers looking at technology, things like that. But the people that are on those videos with me are my customers. I'm actually doing work with them and I'm getting paid. And I'm not paying them to be on my podcast. I'm bringing them on my podcast to talk about the work we've done.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Substance is right.
Yeah. Substance is everything. And guys, again, we talked about this earlier in the show. Notice that everybody keeps saying, get online, get online, get on podcasts, get on podcasts. Mm-hmm. There's a reason. If whatever you're an expert in, whether it's IT, sales, accounting, get on a podcast relevant to that and be a guest and showcase your expertise. And then take that clip and put it out everywhere and send it to people.
Yeah, there's a big difference between getting on someone's podcast and hiring a marketing firm to do marketing for you. Nobody knows the marketing firm. The marketing firm doesn't have a built-in network of people that trust it, except their customers, and that's it, right? But people, individuals, absolutely have trust and networks built in. So you're generating trust from your own network and from whoever's network that you're online with.
Yes.
And that's far more valuable than any, marketing company you can pay to do that for you.
100%. We have a question from the audience.
Organic.
Yeah, exactly. Organic. And that's what you want. You want organic. You want something real. For instance, okay, so this gentleman has asked, or lady, excuse me, I don't know which, how helpful are LinkedIn certifications? Craig, what are your thoughts?
I think LinkedIn certifications are fine. I mean, any certifications that add, experience for you in learning something, I think learning is always good. Okay.
Yes.
And so if you actually learn something from it and it helps you do your job better, I think that's great. And I think that employers love certifications.
Yes.
And so, that's fine. I mean, employers love MBAs too, but a lot of people can't afford that. So, LinkedIn certification, I think, might be more affordable.
I like that. And actually, and not just LinkedIn, there are some other really great sources for these types of things as well. I'm always learning something. I will hop on and take college classes here or there, or I'll get a certification in this or that, or take a class. It's always important to stay up to date and to constantly stimulate your mind and learn something new. And it always makes you more valuable. So I'm with Craig. I'd do it.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely do it. I think that really, really helps. I think too, I've had a lot of questions lately saying, am I not getting a job because of my degree? Because my degree is not in the field I work in, that type of thing. And the first thing that always kind of makes me laugh is I go, well, you've had jobs in that field before and that degree wasn't a problem.
Right.
So I don't think that is, and a lot of companies are going away from requiring degrees for things that are not, specialty or things like that. Obviously, like medical, or lawyers or things like that, they have to have a degree. HR, most places are requiring either certification or a degree, but I don't think it does hurt. Do you?
So the way to get around the degree question is, again, to network your way into the position to be in that interview. Okay. And that is done by getting people to understand that you have knowledge about that role, right? About that company, about what it is you want to do there. And that includes connecting with the people on that team so that they see the stuff that you're putting out to show that you have thought leadership around it, right? And that you are doing some work to demonstrate your expertise. That's way better than a degree in that field. But if you don't have a degree in that field, yes, get some kind of certification in that field. And here's why. You can write the word degree in the liner about education, degrees and certifications, right? And put the words there, because that's what the recruiters and the machines are looking for.
Yes.
Okay, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
The other thing is, for diversity purposes now, companies are starting to blind things like the names of colleges and pronouns out of resumes, so that we don't have some bias inherent.
That's right.
What's going on, from the sourcing and recruiting standpoint. So
that's right.
I think you're right that's changing, and it's not going to be a huge focus.
It's not. I really don't think that is. But you're right about the certifications. I mean, again, that's just part of staying current and all of that. And I encourage that with same thing with IT guys. You work in this field, especially now. IT guys that don't stay current, you're obsolete within a few years, because the technology's currently moving forward. So, it's like now whenever I talk to somebody and they tell me, oh, I've never, they're a programmer or something, and I've never looked at AWS, I'm going, ugh. like this is something that you really ought to know, or at least have seen a little bit. So stay current, guys. That's kind of the main thing. But so we're talking about networking and all that, and I have people tell me I'm an introvert. It's not natural to me. Me too.
Yeah, most of us. It's a developed skill. You have to suck it up and get over it.
Let me tell you, Craig is as awesome as he is as on camera and in speaking engagements, and he's very professional. I can tell you from talking to him offline that he doesn't just live to sit there and yak with you all day. Okay, that is not his personality. Yeah. And while I am very talkative, I'm very much the same way. Let me do my thing, and hit the ground running. So you have to hone that skill. You have to just work on it and stay outside your comfort zone. Don't go outside of it. Stay outside of it.
That's right.
At all times.
And be consistent. So one of those things, if you're going to do any of these things we're talking about, if you're going to start your LLC so that you always have a pivot, right? And post information about the research and work you're doing there on a regular basis to demonstrate your thought leadership, and then get online with people on podcasts and videos and things like that. Don't stop as soon as you get your next gig.
Nope.
And that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. The reason I've had so much success over the years is because when I started this whole online journey, I said to myself, I want things to come to me. I want customers and job candidates and everything else. I used to own a staffing firm as well, to come to me. I want this to be an inbound thing. And the only way to do that is to constantly be putting outbound good information out in the world about the things that and the things that you've done that would help people understand how to do their
job. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, and it's kind of like, I always laugh because, it's almost like a relationship, right? Because people think, oh, when you're dating, you've got to do all these things and show off all that. Oh, I got married. Stop. And then they wonder why there's a problem in the marriage. It's the same thing. Yeah. You have to keep cultivating your network, cultivating your relationships, all of that kind of thing. It's so imperative, and it never stops. It's a constant thing. And after a while, it just becomes second nature. You just reach out, you talk to people, share knowledge. I do guest appearances in other people's groups and their shows and all that kind of stuff. I know, obviously, you do. You're on this show, but it really is, and it really is just a matter of seeing it. And I always tell people, because I've had people say, "Well, what do you pay people for this or that?" Or how much money can I get as a guest? I'm going, that's not really what it's about. What you get from it is all the relationships, the practice, all of that kind of thing, and the expertise, and people viewing you as an expert, and it raises your professional status.
Yeah, and it's good karma. I mean, you're donating your time to benefit another person's network, and that benefits your network, right?
Yep.
And so, we all kind of trade off doing each other's things and promote each other's stuff. And it's just good karma. In recruiting, we call it recruiter karma. Like we do a lot of things in recruiting to help people that never pay us all the time, to help employers that we, never get paid by, and job seekers never pay us anyway. Right. And so, developing those relationships and keeping them up and being helpful to people and giving of your time to help them when you know there's no possible way this is going to pay me anytime soon for anything.
Right. And
the networking thing is the same. And this thing that we do here is the same.
It's the same. And we talked earlier about Dan Irvin. That's how he got his career. He just kept saying yes to appearances and kept talking and doing all this. And next thing you know, people are going, knock, knock, knock. Can I pay you $1,500 to come speak to my group?
That's right. Yeah.
And, and not only that,
forever.
yeah, exactly. Seriously, it works. And not just that, now it's things like, oh, I did your show. Hey, would you mind being a reference for me on this or whatever? You just create these relationships and it becomes this huge community. And I tell people during COVID, technical issue. During COVID, I expanded my network across the whole world. We're about to have Chingir on, and he's from Canada and originally South Korea. And then I have people from Nigeria, people from India, people from Spain, all over the place, Brazil, because I just started reaching out and just saying yes. And now I have resources everywhere and they're amazing. And I get amazing things from them all the time. And I learn from them and I get new opportunities and new introductions. And through all of this, now I've been asked to speak at a big HR Disruptor Summit next year in June. These things work, guys. That's
exactly how it works. And if you do adopt a kind of a global ideal and, put your stuff out in different time zones and bring people on with you who are from other regions that can, show your network how things are in South Africa or wherever, then, there's you learning in the first place, right? And there's their networks that will also see it because all these clips that we produce, everybody uses for their own purposes, right? And so in the early tens, I took a deal with Dice.com where they paid for me and a couple of my mates, Bill Borman and some other folks, to go around the world basically and put on these road shows for them. And it didn't pay a ton. It was a bit of a sacrifice on my part, but it paid off in ways I can't even begin to explain. And now I have a global network of people who are fans of what I do and love to hear the case studies of the projects that I do with big organizations. And that's the other thing, ladies and gentlemen, please document your stuff. Write about it, write a paper about it and attach it on your LinkedIn profile. Everything that I do and ever talk about is documented in a case study somewhere. Somebody says, prove that. I'm like, I did. Here it is.
Yeah, here it is. Bam.
Right? And I've got a whole website with links to all my case studies. And, you can attach a PDF right on your About section, About Me section on LinkedIn or under any of your jobs, and just put links to all of the documentation of things that you've ever done. And keep a journal, right? Take screenshots every day of attaboys and customer things that they liked and successes and results and outcomes, ROI. Keep that journal, keep it in an online Google document or whatever. So you can always, if somebody says, what have you done for me lately? Point to that.
Bam.
Say, here's all the things that I've done.
That's right. And it's always being able to prove value, right?
That's right.
But then kind of the other thing that's just really really important to me too, that you kind of touched on as well, is so people are out there and they're paying attention to these influencers as we talked about on LinkedIn and all that. One thing that gets on my nerves is I see a lot of facts posted. And you'll notice whenever I post a fact, I cite my source.
You got to reference.
I say, this is where I got this, just so that you can go look it up for yourself.
Yeah.
I never put out information. Even when we did the diversity and inclusion episode, I put out a lot of stats and all of that. And I cited every single source. If somebody's not doing that, question it. Question it. Also look for originality. And now some of these people have been outed, but there were all these people, I won't go into names, that were considered big influencers, and all these job seekers were following them and just hanging on their every word. And they were copying from other people. They weren't even genuine. Look at their backgrounds and stop and think, what does somebody who's been a secretary for 20 years and in marketing for 2 know about recruiting.
Yeah. When could they have done the work to understand what that is?
Yeah, exactly. Look into these people before you start clinging on their every word, guys. Seriously, that's such a huge issue. And I don't mean their opinions, but if they're putting something out as fact, if they're trying to teach you something, make sure that they know what they're talking about first.
So if I had a dime for every time I was plagiarized, it would be great bank account. I would love that.
That's why whenever I think you say something smart, I just share your post, because like that way everybody knows it's not me, it's Craig.
Just sharing, right? That's right. But I do document my sources, and I also am original in a lot of these things, right? I do my own survey research, and I do work with these big organizations that give me data and say, yes, it's okay if you publish that. And here's another great way to document what you've done. So lots of times people say, oh, I've got a non-disclosure. I can't disclose that I worked with this company or XYZ. You know what? Turn the narrative around. Say, let's make a case study out of this so that the world knows the great work you, Mr. Customer, have done. So come on with me on my podcast or on a video, and let's absolutely show all the analyst community all the cool things that we've helped you do.
Yes.
Right? And if you're any good, the analyst community is going to pay attention.
Right. Yeah. I love the qualifier. If you're any good. If.
You got to do good work first.
You do. That's very, very important. That's very, very important. So kind of the last thing I want to do with you, Craig, as we kind of wrap up here, because we've only got a few more minutes with you. And thank you so much for coming on early and sharing your time with us. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I love to talk to other recruiters about the ridiculous things that we all see. All right. Yeah. So I am going to kind of run through a few things that have happened to me lately. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of any experiences you've had that are similar. Right. So I recently, and this one was completely new to me. I had somebody shoot me their resume and say, so how was he? I'm trying to think of the exact words, but basically it was just this basic introduction, hey, this is me, this is what I do. And I said, great, if I don't have anything, any openings for that, but, here's a couple of companies you might want to try. And then here's, and if I see anything, I'll let you know. I try to be very polite about it. He responds and goes, that's all you have to say to me?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, we need a disclaimer everywhere that says recruiters don't find people jobs.
Right.
It's not what we do.
No. I've spent so much time explaining that to people. I'm like, I wish I could. I know people that do that. Again, we've dropped some links to some phenomenal people that is their job. Andy Cook and Anna Morgan, love them to death. Yeah. But that's not what I do.
No, the only time that happens is if somebody's already worked for you, you've placed them somewhere, they've done a contract with you, whatever, and they're in your stable and you can place them somewhere else. That's the only time that happens.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And there have been rare occasions somebody sent me something and I happen to know another recruiter looking. Yeah. But that's kind of the exception, not the rule.
There are some people that'll do an MVP type of thing, right? So if you get somebody really good, they'll go out and say, I've got a most valuable prospect for you, Mr. Employer. You should look at this person. Tony Bashara here in Dallas does that amazingly well. And so there are people who do that, but you have to be really good in order for them to have any interest in doing so, because they're spending valuable time.
Right. Absolutely. And kind of the last one I wanted to run by you, because this is kind of another favorite of mine. So I recently had an HR person share this story with me that during an interview, a gentleman just kept scratching himself, like just constantly like scratching his face and all of this. And she was just kind of letting it go. And then the next thing that happened was he busted out with some cream. And like put the cream and starts applying it mid-interview. Said he never broke conversation, just kept on trucking. Wow. So I'm just curious. You've interviewed a lot of people. What would you do?
Yeah, I've interviewed. So if you own a recruiting agency or you run a recruiting or staffing business, you're in the position to tell that person, hey, don't do that. Right?
Yeah, don't do that.
Right, like wear deodorant, wear socks, all these things.
The common sense.
Shine your shoes. Yeah, you do that. But if you're the employer, it's a very different scenario. So I've been in both seats, right? I've been an executive at big Fortune 50 companies and had to interview people where they are just bizarre. right? They don't look at you when they talk, and things like that. And it's like, again, you never know who that person knows or how they might be connected. And so I say, do the right thing and be polite and thank them for their time and, be appreciative. They might need help.
That's right. We don't know.
You never know what's going on in a person's life. And so don't rush to judgment.
That's right.
But, thank them and move on as soon as possible.
And move on. And people, so what we're saying here is don't be weird in your interviews. It will not get you there. And on that note, I want to thank you, Craig, so much for your time. But we're going to say au revoir for now, but best of luck. I'm so excited to see how things go with your new company. If people want to connect with you, we're going to drop your LinkedIn here in the comments. Guys, connect with Craig, follow him. He puts out some awesome content, talks to some really amazing people, and shares the videos. Thank you again.
Thanks, Catherine. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Bye.